It's my privilege this morning to introduce you to David Duea, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Lutheran Community Services Northwest. Lutherans have been doing social services in this area for 100 years or more, and lots of different names for the agencies over the years. But Lutheran Community Services Northwest became an entity in 2001 with the merger of Oregon and Washington. I'm probably stealing some of your thunder, but anyway. And David is the second CEO in the last 25 years that has been with Lutheran Community Services Northwest. He joined in 2015 and has done just a superb job of steering through some very difficult times. I think a lot of us have learned about Lutheran Community Services through our mission program. Lutheran Community Services is a mission partner. We support them financially. We support them through our prayers for the people on Sunday mornings. And most recently, of course, they've been in the news on the immigration refugee resettlement programs. David will talk about that a little bit. But Lutheran Community Services does a lot of other things too. And it's a very broad agency across 3 states. And with that, I will turn it over to David for more information.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning. Let's do a sound check.
Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, pause. Good morning.
Good morning.
I didn't give you a chance. I'm sorry. I am so pleased to be here. Bill actually hired me 11 years ago. So when he asked me to do anything, I have to say yes. He gave me the best and hardest job I will ever have. By far the best. I never thought I would match my career with my faith. And so that part has just been amazing. Hardest part just because, oh my gosh, you've read the news. And so we have been in the bullseye of the current administration for the last several months, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give you some family business. We're going to turn off the video because I don't want it online. But I grew up Lutheran, you are my people. So we're going to have a real conversation. I'm going to talk for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I want to just have a conversation. I want to ask you questions. I don't do presentations for the most part anymore. You can look that stuff up online. Bill did talk about we're in 3 states. We have grown tremendously over the last decade because the needs are so great. And so you probably know a little bit about our refugee immigration services that we are known for. That's the soul of what we do. But we also do a lot more. We work with seniors. We do, our biggest line of service is behavioral health. We do a lot of trauma work, focus on people that have experienced trauma, not only locally, but globally. And so we have a lot of therapists. Our therapists speak up to 50 different languages. So we have a very diverse population of staff. We also do, I might have already said, early childhood development, and then we also do a lot of work with folks who've experienced some type of trauma, crime victims, things of that nature. And then we also do housing. So Compass Housing, that you might know, and I saw them on your tree, your giving tree that you support. So Compass Housing is now a part of our family. We had an affiliation agreement for 5 years, sort of think of it as living together, and we're like, okay, we got to commit or figure something out. And so the board last month officially voted to merge. So they're going to be completely part of our organization on January 1. So we're very excited to have affordable housing in our portfolio of services. We have about 1,000 staff, times that by 10 volunteers. And again, we've been growing, and funding's really a challenge right now, obviously, with being sort of the target of administration. Medicaid is a very big deal to us. We're a Medicaid provider, which I'm going to tell you a little bit later provides us some protection, which is good because we're a provider. And that has helped us in some challenging situations. serve around 50 to 60,000 people a year in a very meaningful way. A lot more than that when you consider backpacks and basic needs that we have started to really focus on because it's such a need in our communities. We serve 4 bishops in the ELCA, and they are great partners. And then we also have 2 board members that are from the Missouri Synod. So we are a pan-Lutheran organization, and we have been that since I've been here. And there's stories behind that with the Missouri Synod and our relationship, but for the most part, it's been extremely positive. They love our work with refugees and support it. So that's sort of the basics of the agency. Again, it's been growing. Our CFO says it's growing at a sort of a startup pace, and that's partly just because there's so many opportunities. We have become a trusted provider of services, not only to the federal, state, local governments as well. A lot of our services are contracts, but then we also have our funding comes from folks like you. Our goal is about 10% of our funding comes from private donations and private foundations, which every year gets bigger and bigger as our budget grows. So we're recording, right?
Yeah, we turn it off?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. So start thinking of your questions. What topics do you want to talk about? And I'll make sure I cover them. Let's just do a little bit of checking. What topics?
Can I mention where our major offices are?
Where our major offices are? Yeah, well, that's changed. So we have an office in SeaTac that used to be our headquarters. It's not anymore. Our headquarters is down in Tacoma. Partly what's happened in my tenure is anytime our programs grow, I give them the permission to kick me out of my office. So I started at SeaTac, and our services of immigration services and asylum seekers and stuff like that grew so much they kicked me out. So I live in Tacoma, so I moved into one of our Tacoma locations that does senior work with seniors. That grew enough, so they kicked me out. So we have just a small office in Tacoma now that's our headquarters, but we have offices all up and down I-5, all the way up to Bellingham, down to Klamath Falls, and places in between. We have offices in one of our biggest offices in the Tri-Cities, Spokane, Boise, and then McMinnville, and we could serve every community if we had the capacity, but we just don't. Our folks are doing great, but they're tired. There's a lot of change, and the reason they're tired is because we have changed a lot. We've had this major merger with Compass that has been great, but that's always hard. And also just the funding is so at risk right now. All of our funding is, we just lost $1 million contract down in Portland, but then we got another one with refugee services. So let's talk a little bit about refugee services. And I'm going to give you sort of I don't know the room, so I don't know if you know the difference, but I'll give you just the 101 of immigration. So that's been in the news a little bit. As you know, this can be recorded. This is very public. We sued the federal government for refugee resettlement. And so it was us, our agency. We were working with Global Refuge. I got a great relationship with Krish, who's the CEO there. They called and said, hey, we're gonna be part of this lawsuit. We would like you to be part of it as well. And so we decided yes, and I reached out to the 4 bishops, and we had an emergency board meeting, because that's a pretty serious deal if you're suing administration. Thank you for laughing. And the reason we did it was we didn't want to pick a fight. But the way that the current administration stopped refugee resettlement was not only unethical, it was unsafe. What they did was they just stopped it. What they did in the first administration is they did it the way you're supposed to do it. They sort of let it run out. And then what the president has authority to do is set the number of refugees that we will allow into the country. That is his authority. Congress voted to authorize refugee resettlement. So the president did not have authority just to end it. And that's what they did. And so the implications of that are we would resettle about the previous 3 years, about 1,500 refugees in the Northwest, just us. That's, the whole country would be, try to get to 120,000. But we would resettle 1,400 to 1,500 a year. That doesn't include SIVs, which is special immigrant visas. Those are the folks that were our translators, for our military, for the most part, or they would serve our military. So there's refugee resettlement from different countries, and then there's SIVs, which is sort of the same program, but you're special. And those folks are sort of still coming in. So what happened when the president cut off refugee resettlement, we were instructed, don't serve any more refugees. We had people that came in the week before. They just got here. We just set them up with an apartment. And so we were told you can't serve them, and we're cutting all your funding. And we're like, well, we've got a contract, and you don't have the authority to do that. And we also said, we're gonna keep serving them, whether you pay us or not. We'll figure it out. And so that's what we decided to do. Global Refuge, and I don't blame them for this, they dropped out of the lawsuit. They were so in the bullseye that we said, we'll take it as the local agency. And so they dropped out. So it was us, Highest and Church World Services. Highest is the Jewish resettlement. So it's the three of us, two national and then us locally. So that put us a little bit in the bullseye of the administration. They obviously weren't pleased. You probably saw in the news, we won the lawsuit, sort of. We won, we had emotional victories. But we did have real victories. And what happened with the lawsuit was we got paid, everyone got paid. And they tried to isolate, I won't get too into the details, but the administration tried to isolate, no, just the three, we're just gonna pay the three of you. And then we're like, no, you have to pay the whole system. And they did. So, and that was a lot of money. So everyone got paid, which was good. And then also we got about 80 or 90 refugees in that were, so you can imagine if you're in a refugee camp, the average stay in the world for a refugee is about 17 years. 17 years. So you can imagine you've got your ticket to the United States. And so what you do is you get rid of everything. And you can only bring so much. And then you go to whatever part of the country so you can get on the flight to come over. And so what happened was they were all told, including the special immigrant visas, the people that help with our military were told, we're canceling all flights, done. And so they have disrupted their lives. I mean, they made lives. The only life that some of these kids knew were in refugee resettlement camps. And so sold everything and then were told no. So anyway, that's the reason we sued. And we've been back and forth and back and forth, and we're still in the process of the lawsuit, but it's more to get little wins. We're not gonna have the big wins. We thought we were, but we're just, they just aren't gonna. A lot of times they'll just ignore what the judge said. So, and that's what's been happening. So anyway, let's go ahead and turn off the deals.